in this world, so many people are dealing with not only their internal team, but nowadays with people that are working remote, freelance is a big issue. Like not laying that groundwork and not being good at what we're talking about, clear and courageous communication and clarity on what's expected from the person that is, running the charge. I mean, if that gets lost in the weeds, it becomes a headache for everybody.
Right. And let's face it, uh, a lot of people complain, but they're able to cash their full check.
Hmm.
It's the owner or the person that's leading that responsibility who's getting shortchanged. We have to adopt that piece instead of me being frustrated that the person's not doing it and being hypercritical of them and all
Hmm.
that. Though that happens, but if you built the right team and things, it should happen less frequently and create an environment for them to thrive. But at the end of the day, I pay the full cost.
Hmm.
Now
Hmm.
they might be aggravated and pay some emotional cost, but they don't really pay financially.
Yeah.
It might take them more time. I'm not saying that there's not an expense, but one thing's for sure, the financial burden is almost always on the person that delegated it.
Hmm.
So it is up to me to ensure that our interests are aligned. Just because I'm justified in being frustrated doesn't mean I should be. So just because I could doesn't mean I should. And if I really want to be highly effective with my time, I need to make sure that I'm able to spot where my team is afraid of doing what needs to be done.
Hmm.
Most successful people, they understand this.
Hmm.
They're not over there pointing out everybody's flaws. If you see somebody hypercritical of everybody else's work, just know they're no higher than a manager. Or
Sure.
maybe they're a senior manager, but that's more in title only. They probably do a lot of damage to the organization. The more seasoned folks know, well, wait a minute, I got to take this, I got to absorb
Yeah.
it. How do I redirect this energy into something more positive? And sometimes the way the other person receives it, it's a lot less about how I'm viewed and
Hmm.
a lot more about how I can redirect that energy towards something that's positive.
Hmm.
And ultimately, if I'm going to pay the price, right, I've got the responsibility to make sure it goes right.
When you spot these things, how do you address that? That fear, that uncertainty, or the things when you realize things are not misaligned and things are not going the way that you want them to go. How do you tackle that and resolve it?
Directly. And I don't do it with a lot of tact,
Hmm.
where people would think that I go in with a pillow gently. No, if you're afraid, let's acknowledge that. But I
Hmm.
mean, I'm not hitting them over the head with it, but sometimes I'm being very direct, like, hey, if we don't have this by Tuesday,
Hmm.
we're going in another direction.
Sure.
Sometimes it has to be abrupt because the abruptness sometimes shakes the words out of someone's mouth,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So if I'm not abrupt
Yeah.
and I just go, well, how are things going?
Right.
So let's talk about. First, that's not in character for me. And but the second part is that it doesn't necessarily trigger the activity that's really required.
Yeah.
Someone has to say, I don't know what to do, or I'm afraid of this not working out right, or whatever the case is. Now, they may say that in 75 different forms,
Hmm.
but it's up to me to learn that that there are obstacles between that person's ears in getting that done,
Hmm.
and I can either reassign it or
Hmm.
I can help them through it. And I want to try to help them through it as much as possible.
So this is great. I mean, and I think everybody that is watching this has, if not a constant. Like some people have gone in ebbs and flows, what have you, but that fear of failure, right? That fear of I'm not going to be able to deliver this the way that somebody wants them to deliver. I'm not good enough. There's so many fears. I mean, you can go on and on. So I guess what does one do to overcome these internal fears that they might have that are not only holding them back, but then impact kind of the broader objective if they're a part of a team or what have you. Just overcoming those fears to be their best self and bring their best work to the table.
Well, first, let's say fears are not bad.
Hmm.
It's an alert inside of your body that happens because it should. If you're concerned about how to do something or you're afraid of it failing, there should be an alert, and
Hmm.
you should be aware of that. So let's not look at the fear as being something bad. Let's look at it as something that is. It's just you're afraid of that.
Hmm.
Now, how do you get someone to not be afraid? Sometimes it's their big brother coming to protect them.
Sure.
Right. Sometimes it's coming from learning.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's coming from somebody watching them do it and with a safety net. There's all kinds of different ways of enduring that fear and kind of overcoming it. But I don't want to turn it off. I want someone to stay fearful in the items that they're fearful until they've built a way to be in a healthy way further along in that.
Mhm.
But I'm definitely not trying to numb the fear and I'm not trying to make the fear go away. I'm trying to help somebody with that fear. And so if we recognize that we're all fearful, we all have all kinds of fears, and that it's a healthy thing and we don't demonize it, then we can look at it and say, oh, okay, someone's facing something that I face too, and they're facing it in this manner. How do I help them? And sometimes I'm going to be the big brother.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'm right that's going to step in and take that on. Sometimes I'm going to be the one that accompanies them through it. Sometimes I'm going to reassign it to someone else to just, hey, put it in different hands.
Hmm.
But there's this idea that I want to develop my team, because that team, the stronger I can develop my team, the more weight that we can support, the bigger we can grow and all that. And that's my responsibility. Reframe from fear equals bad, and the person not doing it, that doesn't mean they're defying us. It's not
Hmm.
an act of defiance. It may be, but oftentimes if you handpick that team, it's not defiance.
Sure.
It's some sort of fear. And a lot of times it's fear of failure. I want to talk about the expectation. So there's the task itself that's been delegated out, or the responsibility tied to it. And there's that item. But we're developing our team, our ability to work with one another. And here's another item that people forget. So let's say we resolve the conflict that we had. Hey, the person wasn't they were afraid that they were going to fail. We worked through it. Now we've got it, and now we're doing it right. There can be remnants, because now we've established that, hey, when I fall short, this other person steps in, resolves it, and we move forward.
Right.
That's not the precedent that we want to set. We want to establish that the precedent is, hey, I believe I'm going to fail. I ask before the fact
Hmm.
for some assistance, and I work through it. And so one of the things that we need to maintain is that the confidence in the person that's delegating it out,
Yeah.
that person must remain confident that they're giving it to the right person. As soon as that seed of doubt starts to get in, it's the same kind of impact as somebody that's afraid they're going to fail.
Hmm.
I'm afraid I'm giving it to the wrong person. So we have to restore that confidence. And that confidence is almost like when a trust is betrayed.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hey, I gave this to you. I expect it to be done. It's not done. It looks a lot like an apology.
Hmm.
And an apology doesn't have value unless it's causing a change in behavior. So that's an important element to it. So again, that expectation needs to be restored, that I have confidence in my delegation of the task or
Sure.
responsibility, and then that person has the confidence to raise the flag when they're not feeling right on the item.
So one of the clients I know that you've been working with, you've been dealing with this a little bit, where there's definitely some fear to move forward on some initiatives, like that would help the business out of the situation that they're in. So when you see that, I guess at what point do you go from, look, you guys are afraid to move on, to I want to use the word helpless, but like you're just not going to overcome that fear. Like is that a situation that you see from time to time?
I'm dealing with one right now, and I actually had to step aside from it because there's three partners, and one of them is kind of half in and half out.
Mhm.
Another one's in, is heavily opinionated but underinformed in business, and then the third one is great at sales and kind of moving on his feet, but hasn't been able to rally the rest of the team to support where he's trying to go. And so there's this dysfunction because the fears of the team are all very different.
Hmm.
Each one has a different fear that's leading each of their charges. You've got
Hmm.
one that's really an achiever and wants to make sure that his achievement is being followed. And then another one is afraid of the solutions and has become extremely cynical, of the solutions. And so you've got this whole mess. And so I can't do the push-ups for you. And sometimes you have to excuse yourself from that, because I'm not going to spend my time going crazy trying to convince them of something that I know to be right.
Hmm.
Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not true. I can't understand it for you. That's oftentimes the situation that a consultant finds themselves in, because they know what they're looking at, and the person refuses to believe it.
That's a good example. I'm sure other people are running into that. And I don't know if this is the case, but with that particular case, is there a decision maker, or are you dealing with like three decision makers?
It's really two decision makers, but they're at war with each other. You just have to get out of the way there and
Yeah.
let the mess happen. That's happened a lot recently to me, where I was never comfortable allowing the people to crash.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
always felt this sense of obligation, like, we got to save it, we got to do this, we
Yeah.
got to do that. And then at the end of the day, sometimes they need to crash to learn the appropriate lesson.
Hmm.
And I've been the cushion for far too many. And so this is part of my maturing as a leader, is to understand, hey, sometimes it takes a tragedy.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have to let things get destroyed. There's a lot more at stake than just that item.
Hmm.
It's someone's mindset, their humility, and a lot of other things that go into it. And it's awful to say, but I think I've interfered with God's work, you know. And I think I've softened the blow for people that maybe
Yeah.
needed a harsher blow.
Hmm.
And had they had it, the humility may have kicked in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my new way of adopting something where I'm directly addressing it. Sometimes causes the jar
Yeah.
that's required for people to say what's really on their mind. And that's the same thing true for the strength. Sometimes it takes a horrible situation for someone to wake up
Yeah.
and then get in line.
When have you yourself dealt with the fear of failure?
My fear of failure is really what drove me to work those ridiculous amount of hours all through my 20s.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be broke again and things like that, but it was really more around I wanted to make sure that I was safe,
Hmm.
and I didn't want to feel like I was at risk. And that was, I responded to it with the opposite.
Hmm.
So some people go and hide like an
Yeah.
ostrich, and then others go out there and fight. And so I probably found more fights than I needed to be in. Probably was more argumentative, and I knew that someone was not going to outwork me, and they weren't going to outthink me.
Hmm.
So if I'm going to outwork you and I'm going to outthink you, I'm
Yeah.
probably going to win a lot of those battles, and that's what happened. I paid a big price, and that's part of the lessons that I'm sharing. Like I could have won, like I could win at accomplishing a lot in my business as well as maintaining myself, and I
Mhm.
didn't. It took me a while to learn that, and so that's what I'm trying to bring forward here with the Million Manifesto movement.
Hmm. What about modern day John? Like now, like back then, it makes sense, right? You're scrapping just to survive and build something. Now that you've built it, do you still deal with fear of failure in what you're doing, your businesses, your life?
Let's remember that the fear is not a problem. It's
Hmm.
actually good because it triggers some sort of response. Mine happened to be work hard. The part that was bad, like the ugly part that I'm trying to help remove, is that became my default. And I was always responding to a situation out of habit that I was just going to outwork and outthink and outwork and outthink. And I stopped realizing the value of myself.
Hmm.
And my saying is I started to go along to get along with so many different things because I knew what I was in pursuit of. It was really helpful for me to suffer the way that I did.
Hmm.
I had a lot of suffering and difficulties, and that's what it took for me to learn the lessons that I needed to.
Hmm.
And had I had someone taught me them earlier on, well, I hope I would have embraced them
Yeah.
and done that. But I didn't have that luxury, and so I had to learn on my own. And now I want to share that with other people to help them. Hey, consider it. If they can learn off of me sharing it, considering it, and then include that in their arsenal,
Hmm.
great. If not, then they've got to go pay the price just like I did.
Hmm.
But I'm hoping that people can learn from my experiences.